yeah, this is you mentioned it, Chip. We talked about it with the Tyler Davis injury. Like I said, if you're gonna suffer an injury on your defense and you're Clemson, that's the one place you want it to be. But now that losing Brzee on top of Davis still being hurt, this is a Clemson team with a lot of problems. And while I think that defensively they're probably still going to be good, if not great, when your offense is struggling the way that their offense has struggled this season, and I'm not sure that there's an easy answer to what the problems are on offense with that offensive line, like the margin for error gets thinner and thinner. So when you lose Brzee for the year, that takes away less margin for error. You're losing, the running Shipley for at least a month. That's going to hurt the offense. This is a team that they're in trouble. Like this, not like 6-6, 5-7 trouble, but this is a team that I can see losing 2 to 3 more games if things keep going the way they are, and this offense keeps playing as poorly as it has. Like this could be a very much not a permanent step back season, but it could be like an 8-4 kind of year for Clemson, where when you look at the way that the standards that they've had since in the college football playoff era and before that building up to it, that's a terrible season. And I think that right now that's very much in the realm of possibility.
Obviously the injuries are going to hurt. I don't know if it hurts as much as their feelings right now. And that to me is what I'm watching for Clemson. This will be Dabo's big. They have not been in this position 6 or 7 years. So you have an entire class.
11. Like this is like 2010 is the last time that Dabo has looked out on the field and said, "Oh crap, we're in trouble."
So you've had so no one on this roster has dealt with this type of adversity. No one on this roster has had to say, well, let's give it our all because we want to make some bowl. It's not the playoff. And that is a different dynamic. And we've seen different programs across the country struggle in this position. When your expectation is championship or bust, what happens when it goes bust this early in the season? I think it's a healthy culture. I really do. I think Dabo preaches family all in. I love it. I love what he preaches. It's going to get tested this year. How invested is this team? And hey, the team before me, and we just got to go to work and keep putting forth our best effort. It'll look good. I think it'll look good on the field, but practice, do they have the same motivation? Do they have that same hunger, that same desire to get a 10-win season? Is that enough to get them really motivated? I don't know. It's not the demise of Clemson or anything like that. I think it's just going to be a really unique challenge for Dabo to get after his players and, to make sure they're still as invested as they have been every other year, because every other year you've been able to, it's only one loss, we can still get back in the playoff, and they've done it. They've won the ACC. They've still been able to accomplish all their goals. I talk about that a lot is, if you're the coach, you can go back into that room and you say, we can still accomplish all our goals. What happens when you can't? Can you still sell the playoff as a 2-loss team?
No.
So are they going to be as motivated to say, well, let's win our division or win an ACC when everybody's crapping on the ACC? What does that mean? It's going to be a challenge for Dabo.
First of all, I had this slotted for later, but we'll stick with Clemson here because I think the conversation's good and there's no reason for us to stop it and then come back to it. The reason why Clemson is still a betting favorite is because are you trusting, and I say this with love, are you trusting NC State with a 1-game lead in the division over 8 weeks? That's because 1 game is good. They've got the head-to-head, and that is massive. And when you look at the ACC, for the most part, you're looking at NC State, Clemson, and obviously Wake Forest and Boston College, where I think Wake Forest and Boston College probably need more losses. They needed to be 6-2 to be able to, and have the right head-to-heads to be able to win it. And then on the coastal side, I think you're looking at Miami, Pittsburgh, and Virginia Tech. Yeah, because North Carolina's got 2, not just conference losses, but 2 division losses. North Carolina is one of the only teams out of this whole ACC group that is out of the conference championship race. Clemson needs 2 NC State losses and to run the table the rest of the way, which is why I think the gambling is still favoring Clemson to be able to do that, but it's in NC State's hands. And then Wake Forest and Boston College obviously need to get in and cause all kinds of havoc. But Clemson is selling we're going to win the ACC. This is what we do. We've got 6 straight conference championships, and I think that's the big message for Clemson.
So important to note as well that NC State also lost a starting defensive tackle, I believe, for the year. They announced that, pregame. So there are guys going down on both sides of this coastal race, and we'll see. I mean, Wake Forest lost a couple guys in the preseason, right? They lost Donovan Green, and they lost their starting right tackle, I believe.
Your boy Corey Durden stepped up. He played really well, and I guess he's the new nose guard. Now after that injury. He's
got some ability, man. I saw he deleted his Twitter. That's probably a really, really good sign for him there. Focus. Danny knows what I'm talking about. But ultimately, I think with Clemson's defense, it's still hard to score on them, right? Clemson, if you want to talk about why they're still ranked.
Yeah, should they be ranked? That's the question, because they got all the way down to number 25 in the AP poll. They are higher in the coaches poll. Coaches poll have a better opinion of the Clemson Tigers. And yeah, Roy's question was my biggest, my AP poll rankings takeaway. Number 1, should Clemson be ranked? I do not have an AP poll ballot. I will say that on my CBS Sports 130 ballot, they are in the top 25. I probably lean a little bit more on the forward-looking than resume-based rankings. I know the DK top 8 is all resume.
Yes.
I'm a little bit more on the predictive power rating influence, of which Clemson is still a top 15 team for me.
Why?
Who do you have Clemson ahead of on your ballot?
I will tell you right now.
Well, Chip looks. I think Clemson, if you look at just their performance, easily has played like a top 25 team. First of all, I think NC State's a top 25 caliber team. I think they were kind of unlucky to lose at Mississippi State. And nobody has come close to playing with Georgia at all. And Clemson held Georgia's offense without a score. The only touchdown scored in that game. Georgia may be the best team in the country so far this year. And Clemson, but what? But if you're evaluating quality of play as opposed to just the end result.
But I think we're valuing that Georgia game way too much. I get Georgia's been blowing out people. But, I mean, no offense to Barton, R.I.P. Barton, but it was against Vanderbilt in South Carolina. Needed a last-second field goal to beat East Carolina. These aren't – and that was my whole thing. We'll find out a lot more about Georgia this weekend. But at some point, you've got to penalize teams for losing. You can't get points for looking close against Clemson or against Georgia in week 1. They should not. It's easy. This is the same thing that bothers me. I'm just glad now it's happened to an ACC team, because I always get accused of being an ACC homer. We get way too much credit for our perception of teams before the season starts. And then when they don't perform, it's maybe they're still pretty good and they still have all this 4- and 5-star talent. They aren't playing like it, so they don't deserve to be in the top 25 right now.
Yeah, Clemson ranks.
There are 25 teams who can play Georgia within a single score.
No. Do I think there are 25 teams that could beat Clemson the way Clemson's playing right now? Yeah.
Really? You would get 25 teams you would favor over Clemson?
Not favor, but that can beat them. Yeah. And you have to balance out. This isn't just Vegas power rating style. No, I have them in the top 25 in my gambling perspective. But as far as an AP poll or where they should be ranked based on what they're doing this season, hell no, they're not a top 25 team. They're dead last in the ACC in points per game, yards per game, and yards per play. And you can bring up the Georgia game and say, yeah, well, that's obviously skewing the numbers. It does. But this is still a team that averaged 4.3 yards per play while scoring 14 points against Georgia Tech. It was held to 4.37 yards per play against NC State the other night and lost in double overtime, only scored 20 points to get there. They've gone out. I tweeted this stat last night. Let me check. They've gone 3 and out on 41.7% of their offensive possessions.
Wow.
That's 115th nationally and last in the ACC. The next worst team, Florida State, and they're 6.5% worse than Florida State. They've been terrible. They are not a top 25 team.
Do you think Iowa's a top 25 team? Iowa's a really good defense. Clemson a really good defense.
And it's won.
Clemson's
really lost twice.
Offenses.
It's lost twice. It's beaten South Carolina State and Georgia Tech by 6. Woo! Go Clemson.
That's fair. But Iowa hasn't played Georgia, and they haven't played NC State. I mean, they played Iowa State team. I think NC State's better than. But
but that's. I mean.
Clemson
was 4-0. Clemson 2-2. It wins half the time. Top 25 teams win more than half the time.
That's fair.
Top 10 defense nationally. If you can, those are awful offensive statistics, but they are an elite defensive team. And I think
they just lost an elite defensive player.
I
Now
think
too.
I just think elite being like a misplaced team is like still maybe a top 25 team. Okay, you ready for the list?
Yeah, I need to hear this.
Okay.
So I can yell at you.
All right. The teams that are ahead of Clemson.
No, I want to know who you have them ahead of.
Oh,
Yeah.
Michigan State, Texas A&M, Fresno State, Coastal Carolina, UCLA, LSU, Texas, Auburn, NC State, Baylor.
You have them ahead of NC State?
Yeah, I don't do
NC State literally just beat it.
I mean,
What are you doing here, buddy?
That's college football in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Losses don't matter. I thought they were better before the game.
Yeah, they
The
still have more
results
talent on their
meaningless.
roster, so we should give them credit for that.
That's terrible, Chip. I expect better of you.
Baylor, Iowa State, BYU, Wake Forest, UTSA, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Washington.
So where do you have them?
Silverstein
ranked
had a field
exactly?
day with this, didn't he?
Huh? With my rankings?
You got some Slack messages about this, didn't you? Or did you not see it?
I mean, it was turned into him. I don't know
Okay.
if you saw it or not.
Where do you have them though? Like what number?
14.
You're a coach. You're the coaches poll. Who
Yeah.
are you voting for out there? You mailing in some coaches poll ranking?
I still think they are one of the a top 15 team.
Man, dude.
So I don't understand that at all. You can't base it on
Well, I can
Again.
base it on whatever I want.
That's not
It's my
you
ballot.
think they would beat, and that's what drives me nuts.
Where did-
that's why I do mine resume based, because that's
Where
the
did-
only way you can do it.
Where did you have them ranked before the NC State loss?
9-ish, somewhere around there.
So losing to NC State and falling to 2-2 is worth only a 5-point drop in your rankings.
When I'm sorting my teams out, I don't have any numbers at the beginning. I just write all the team names out and just start moving them around each other. And then I come in at the very end and put the numbers. And
Well,
sometimes that leads to some surprises.
in my opinion ballot for the Super 16 poll, I did not even consider Clemson for my top 16. I don't know where I would put them. They sure as hell wouldn't be in the top 25.
Well, you just wrote a feature about how bad the offense is on CBS.
It sucks.
You can go check out.
And guess what? I don't know if you know this or not, but offense is kind of an important part of football. Like defenses aren't winning championships anymore. Offenses are.
I'm not asking my number 14 team in the country to go compete for a playoff spot or win a national championship. I'm asking you to go like 9-3, 10-2.
Are you certain
And-
they're not going 10-2? I'll tell you that right now.
And
And-
all of that is still on the table for the Clemson
Maybe.
Tigers.
I know 2 of them were in overtime, but they did give up 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions to our guy Devin Leary. Like when they needed to be great, they weren't.